joining me on. If you're on right now, if you catch me later, thank you for joining in. Today's topic is going to be how a woman can stay in her feminine energy and how, the wrong kind of partner can actually trigger a woman to be more masculine. So, how does a woman stay in her femininity, her softness, her female energy without overcompensating for, the other half's energy? So, like for a man, they should be a little bit more stable, a little bit more of a leader, very protective, right? Because if you ask the question, why does a woman need a man? Well, a lot of women who are in their masculine energy will say that they don't need a man, that they can do it all by themselves, which actually is very true. There are very strong women out there who have been able to raise a family, raise kids, work and provide for the family all on their own. So I'm not saying that women shouldn't be doing that. There just have been women who were put in that position. Unfortunately, it's either because the masculine figure walked away consciously, decided to do that, or something tragic happened, like they either passed or something like of that sort. So I don't agree that women should always be in the masculine energy. Even if you are single, there has to be moments where you can actually soften up and let go and just be receptive. Because a woman's womb, her womb cycles with the moon. So if you know anything about the moon cycles, it cycles every 28 days from new moon to full moon. And for a woman, her womb does the same thing. So because she cycles with the moon, if you take a look at esoteric symbology, the womb and the moon are heavily connected. They both are very emotional. They are, they bring a lot of creation and creativity. So also when you're planting in the garden, if you know a little bit about this, you can cycle your planting with the moon if you actually line up with like an almanac's Bible. An almanac book is where you can line up your crops to the moon's cycle. So just to put it in a clear perspective, when you are planting things, certain plants grow better when you plant them at specific times. And that could be either, a moon in July or a moon in November, and not just the moon, right? Like the month of the moon, but like the cycle of it. So a new moon is good for planting seeds. And full moons don't really require a lot of planting. Hey, how's your day going? My day is going really well. Thank you for jumping on. Right now, I'm talking about how when you plant seeds and you are cultivating crops and vegetables, you can align with the moon to get a better outcome. So this is why the woman's womb, when she aligns with the moon and she's aware of her cycles, her manifestations can become a lot more better and a lot more prevalent. So, yeah, manifesting energy comes not only from the woman. Of course, a man can manifest energy alone. But when we're talking about relationships and family dynamics, the man and the female both play their own role. So, if you want a perfect dynamic, the man will go and provide. They are the protector for the family. They lead by example, or they just lead in general, making plans. And the woman, in most cases, is the one who is nurturing the children, taking care of the home. And I'm not saying women shouldn't work or women shouldn't work, because I have always worked. I've worked since I was 17 years old. And even when I got pregnant, 3 months after giving birth, I went back to work, and I have been working ever since. I just had a break after my grandma died last year, but I am not saying women shouldn't work, but they are in their best manifesting energy when they can relax. So just having that balance of knowing when to relax and when you're overworking. So unfortunately, in this society, we have to go to a job almost every day, if not at least 5 days out of the week. So it's hard for a woman to rest when she's working. But if the man knows the dynamics of being in a healthy relationship and picking up the balance or the lack, then they will allow their woman or their female counterpart to have these cycles of relaxation where they don't have to do as much. Maybe they don't have to cook as much, right? When they're going through their cycle. But the main idea of this live is just to note that, like, a woman cannot be in her feminine energy if she's always leading, if she's always planning, if she's always having to work hard and stress her body out, stress her mind out. then it actually shows with the like if she's neglecting the children, that shows that she's overworking, that she's doing a lot. And so, oh, thank you for the makeup comment. I was just on, before this trying to make sure it was perfect. But yeah, so I have been in a relationship for the past 14 years, and we did take a break during 2020, which was this is a great point that I wanted to make. In 2020, lots of people were breaking up. And it wasn't just because there was a lot of madness in the house and people were finding out that their partner was cheating. Because, I was one of those people. I did find out that my partner was cheating behind my back. But what I've been able to do in my relationship is create a balanced dynamic. So whenever I need rest, whenever I need to just receive energy, my partner is able to compensate for that. So yes, I work. I have worked all the time up until, when my grandma passed, but he was always able to support my creative endeavors. So a lot of women like to have like side hustles, they like to do fun things. I'm seeing a lot more women do YouTube videos just based on the knowledge that they have and, the expertise that they know. And so that's a really healthy dynamic. If you're able to give a woman the space and the creativity that she needs, that is really healthy. But when she's always having to worry about the money, whether the man is making enough or if the man is spending too much, then you're taking away from her feminine energy, and she's not able to be in this relaxed, feminine, state of mind because she has to compensate for the male. So if she's always basically, if a woman cannot trust her partner, she cannot be in her feminine energy. So this goes back to being a single woman or a single mom, right? And having to do everything, having to do the things that a male should be doing. She is in the masculine energy and not all the time. Just because you're a single woman and you're working all the time to provide for your children doesn't mean that you're never in your feminine energy. But there's an awareness there that needs to happen to where you need to relax. Maybe that means even having the kids take care of certain things, and that's not bad. You're teaching your kids responsibility. You're teaching them real life skills that they need, right? To get ahead in life, to just have basic needs, because the one thing we don't want to do too is like if you have male sons, if there's men that are like barely coming into adulthood, you don't want them to depend on a woman. Because then what happens is there starts that balance, the imbalance in a relationship where if the boy can't do certain things around the house to take care of themselves, they put it all on the female. And so, yes, just because the woman is nurturing, she might be good at cleaning, she might like to cook, doesn't mean that she won't experience burnout. Because just because you're a man doesn't mean that you don't do feminine things, like feminine stuff around the house, like cleaning up after yourself, right? If the man is just taking advantage of the woman's energy and just like, let's just say he throws his toilet paper and it doesn't land in the trash can. Wouldn't a female find that a little disrespectful to her feminine energy that the man can't even do something like that, like clean up after himself and do some basic, picking stuff up, right? So these are the things I'm talking about. These little tedious things around the house that, that require you to have respect for the people in your home. Those are also things that, that can point to whether a man is out of balance with his feminine energy, if he's taking advantage of the woman, right? And so you can also argue that there are some women out there that are crazy, that like to tell their man what to do and control everything. That's a red flag for the woman is dipping too much into her masculine energy and trying to control things. So to be in your feminine energy, you have to kind of let go of control sometimes. You have to find the balance. You have to recognize what works in your family, what works in your relationship. And so, if there is that woman trying to control everything, trying to even control the way people move and where they sit and how they walk and what time they leave the house, that is a female being in her masculine energy. So, being too much in control. Basically, when you see a woman being unattractive, that is probably her using too much of her masculine energy, which is not bad, but it's just again learning when to relax and receive as a female. And then when you're just like having to pick up the slack from the other partner, that is you reaching into your masculine energy, trying to compensate for his lack. So men have to have both some feminine dynamics, some emotional regulation, some sensitivity so they can actually support their female counterpart. And women also have to have a protective energy around themselves to not get taken advantage of. And you could say that's masculine, but this energy needs to come out every now and then when they're alone, when they're in their work environment or have to be out without the male next to them, they do need to learn how to protect themselves. And that is a masculine energy. But that's not something that they need to bring home and start, protecting themselves all the time, being in this hyper vigilant state of mind. Because then again, that's you being controlling. That's you almost having there maybe it's a sense of anxiety for you, but that needs to be healed. You do need to heal a lot of your anxiety in any form that you might have, because that can actually, it's going to hinder your family. It's going to hinder your kids. It's going to hinder your husband or whoever your partner is. Hey guys, sorry if I'm not saying hi. I just want to make sure I don't lose track of what I'm saying. But yes, today's video is all about, how to stay in your feminine energy. Is your partner taking you out of that feminine dynamic? And what can you do to actually bring it back into balance? In my house, I do take care of all the bills. But whenever I see that my husband is like spending too much, or maybe he's not showing that he's aware of how much things are costing me. Like when he goes through the napkins really quickly, I do have to make a comment because he doesn't go out and budget everything and buy all the groceries all at once. If I do send him out, he gets like a few things because I'm like the master of doing that. But if ever I need to rest, I will send him a list and he will get it done. So that's the balance I'm talking about, a healthy balance of like, hey, can you take care of the feminine stuff right now because I need to be in my rest mode. I just got a facial. I can't be out in the sun. Can you please do this for me? And then those things actually allow him to have a female, a partner that is more healthy mentally. She takes care of herself physically. We have a balance in emotional matters, because it's like whenever he sees that I'm upset, tired, or anything, he needs to recognize that and not get defensive with me like he has in the past. We've grown so much, 14 years with somebody, you grow a lot, especially if you can still put up with it, right? And so yeah, he's been able to just like compromise, not be so defensive, not always say something back, because now he sees that our children are picking up those traits. So when he talks back to me after I just ask for a quick favor, he sees that in the children when they do it, because they don't do it to me, but they do it to him. And so that's interesting when you start seeing the dynamic and what the kids are picking up versus, what they're not seeing too. Can I ask you a question? Of course, you can ask me a question about my faith, which, don't want to trigger anybody here. I'll try to make it quick and not too biased, but you can ask me anything. I do have some videos. I have a lot of videos on spirituality, but unfortunately, they're not, geared around any type of religion, just because I've been to different houses of religion. I've been to Christianity, or what's it called, the Christian church. I've been to a Catholic church. I've studied Buddhism. I've done Kundalini yoga. I've dipped my toes in a lot of spiritual communities to see what they offer. And at the end of the day, like nothing is going to have your back, or nothing is going to be more clear than your own spiritual energy, and having a direct link up to source, the creator, right? The most high is what I call it. I don't call on figures, and I don't do like idols of God, right? Because there are idols of God. Like to me, Jesus Christ is like an idol of God. He is somewhat a middleman, but we can learn so much from him. Like his testimonies, um, believe it to be true, or if you believe it to be true or not, doesn't matter. The testimonies that, Jesus Christ has revealed, or what people have studied about him, is very true, right? Like Christ consciousness, being able to become a healer, be the best version of yourself. Everyone can be a Jesus Christ. So that's what I believe. And when it comes to relationships, it can be hard, because at the beginning I was very spiritual, wanted to be very like positive all the time, always have been, right? And my partner wasn't on the same exact page. He had an aunt who would like read cards, do tarot reading, and I thought that was cool, but I didn't know what that entailed. So when he got into tarot reading, I started noticing some types of energies that were coming into our house, that were penetrating our partnership. And I told him, like, recognize these energies, because I don't think that they're that clean. There is nothing wrong, I think, with doing tarot. But when you do it a certain way and you are helping people who want to manipulate their own relationships, and you're helping them find a way to manipulate their relationships, that to me is bad karma. So he doesn't play with the tarot as much. He does it more on himself. And I've gone like 5 years without even touching my tarot cards because of the energy I was noticing. A lot of tarot readers, not all of them, and I'm going to tell you, some practice, good magic, but a lot of them become single. They're on their third marriage. And to me, it doesn't make sense. Why? How can you be helping people and then in your own life, you don't have the perfect partner that you deserve, that you need, right? And so, like I said, when you are trying to raise kids on your own, that is going to create an imbalance because you have to constantly be switching on and off to the mommy daddy mode, the feminine energy, the masculine energy. And so, yeah, so men should be emotionally available for their children, for their partner, have that sensitivity, have that empathy for their family. But that can be seen as feminine, but that's not a bad thing if they're doing it when they need to. But they also have to have this protective energy where they have a plan, they have a goal for their family, they are providing for their family in some type of way. Even if that means, like, let's just say you have a girl boss in the family, let's just say the female owns a business, because there was a point of time where I did have a vegan business and it was growing and we were going to open up a location, and it was we were so close. We were renting the location out already to try it, and then COVID hit. So during that time my partner was helping me, but he was still working. Like, he was still working a little bit, and whenever I needed to be out of the house and I had to hire someone to help me, he would take care of the kids. And him not arguing about that and not having a problem with it is a perfect it's a perfect balance. It's a good dynamic. It's a healthy trait to have because he had to switch into his feminine energy. He had to provide the food for them. You know, if he needed anything, if they got sick and he had to go to the store and get something to make them feel better, he was taking care of it. And so there was no like arguing about it or anything. So he really believed in what I was doing. Unfortunately, COVID happened and all these things happened, but we were able to grow from it because it taught me a lot about just being a partner as well, and being aware of my partner and his needs, not always being there to give him all his needs all the time, but just remembering that I have a partner and that just because I have a growing business or something creative to do, that I'm not neglecting our relationship. I'm not neglecting the connection that we can form together, that we constantly have to work on. Like, he likes to watch Netflix stuff. Like, he likes to watch series and movies, and I'm not really like that. I can have the TV on and I will not be paying attention to it. I'll be writing in my notebook. I'll be on my phone. But I have to sacrifice some of my time sometimes to just spend moments with him and connect with him and watch these shows and movies that are actually interesting. I don't regret it at the end. Sometimes I'm just like, dang, this was like a 6 hour series that we just been watched. Oh my gosh, you know, but I have to create the balance in my own life to this extra time that I'm given to rest. You know, I can use it for myself, right? So knowing to not be selfish, knowing to not overgive also, right? Because overgiving is a sign of like when the feminine energy is out of balance. A man can overgive too if the woman is being too controlling, too needy. She's not balancing her end of the relationship. So yeah, let me take a look at my notes because I have some really good ones just to highlight what an imbalance looks like, right? So a grounded masculine presence creates stability, right? So he creates stability in the family. The family feels safe that he's there, that he's a part of the family. He doesn't make the family worse, right? With like drama and problems and petty behavior. Um, there's consistency. So when the male is consistent with just being able to provide for his family, knowing that that is, you know, a role that he took on, whether the female is doing it too or not, that's important. Direction. So, like I was saying too, though, about the consistency, even though I had my business, my husband still kept his job and was still helping me out with the kids. Accountability is really important because that works for both men and female, but it's so important for men because men can be very defensive, especially if they've had a woman in the family, like if their mother was dominant, if their mother was very controlling and had to be in her masculine energy, this will result in the men or the male being a little bit too much on the masculine or on the feminine side and maybe not taking accountability sometimes, right? Like deflecting the energy. A little bit narcissistic where instead of when you point out the man's flaw, he starts pointing out a flaw that you may have, like to the female. So you cannot accept this. Like, this is unacceptable behavior. Do not argue with him in return. Do not start an open-end conversation when he starts to lack accountability and deflect it back on you. What I do is what I taught my man to do is just not even do that, because when he starts deflecting and pointing something out at me that I've done wrong, when I am literally just opening up the conversation for him to fix something that is out of balance, I don't even respond. Like, I get quiet, I stare at him. Sometimes I walk away. Sometimes I'll just keep doing whatever I'm doing, if it's cooking, if it's my makeup, and I just don't respond to whatever that comment was because it's not important to respond. And then I'm not going to start defending myself and then leaking energy and leaking my focus because I just, you know, came to him about something. We need to focus on that something. And that needs to get resolved before he starts trying to ask any more other questions, because my man has done this so many times where you'll ask him a question, right? And it's about self correction and he doesn't answer the question, he comes out with another question for you because he's trying to turn the tables. Don't fall for that in any relationship. If this is someone you're beginning with, don't fall for it. Teach him that that is not proper behavior. He's not respecting your feminine energy. He's not taking accountability for what he's doing and what he's saying. What do I think about queer people? Oh, okay. This is great because I forgot I wanted to bring this up. You can find these dynamics in a healthy relationship between a queer couple. So if you have like a lesbian couple, if you have a gay couple where it's a man and a man, there is always this dynamic. One person is always kind of consciously taking on the role of the masculine figure. And this is a great example because last night I was watching a Home and Gardens television show, and like they're like house hunting, and it was these two women, right? And I was like, these two women complement each other so well. Like this is how you can't deny some people are meant to be gay. They, I don't think that that's like something demonic like some people believe. The transgender thing can get borderline there if you're forcing it on a child that's too young. But if you're older, if you found the perfect person and they're the same sex as you, there is going to be this trait and dynamic. This is the same thing that the male and the women do. The man sometimes has to get into his feminine energy to make up for, the woman, maybe making a little bit more money, maybe spending some more time out of the house to provide, right? The partner just has to be willing to pick up the imbalance, to make up for some shortcoming for a short term period. If they're doing it all the time, that's when somebody else gets drained in the relationship. But if you have to do it for a moment, for a day, for a week, that's healthy. So this female couple, very perfect dynamic. You had one that you could tell was a little bit more masculine. She was wearing the pantsuits, she had the shorter hair, and the other woman did have short hair too, but she was wearing like dresses. You could tell she was more the feminine one. And you don't have to like say this out loud. You don't have to say, "Hey, I'm the masculine one, I'm the feminine one." When you know your partner, when you're in love, you just know. And you just um act on those dynamics. But being aware of the feminine energies, the masculine energies, the need of the other partner, the desires, the goals. Self awareness is going to help you get through anything, right? Because there's no such thing as bad or good. Nothing is wholly bad, nothing is wholly good. The only thing that makes it that way is ignorance, right? When you are ignorant to the fact, when you are ignoring something that is very real, that is what I call demonic or evil or whatever. Like when you're intentionally doing something bad. But when you are not aware of something, we just hope that your partner will help you get there and you will learn together and you'll grow together and you'll become aware of things. So you can just have that perfect dynamic in gay couples too. Like it doesn't really matter. You don't have to role play. It just the swing has to be there. You have to be in a harmonic mode with the partner all the time. So when things get a little crazy, you just need to talk about it. And their reaction to it is going to tell you a lot. If they just choose to not change, if they are very, in denial, defensive all the time, that is not healthy. You need to step back. Maybe you need to call out a break because then they'll learn their lesson that you're not playing around, right? So this is very feminine, but men can do it too when they're just being depleted and controlled and abused verbally or whatever it can be. They need to know when to step back because they'll teach that woman that they're not putting up with that, right? Because there are females like that that get abusive. They may be in their masculine energy because their father was gone. Maybe they lost their father. Maybe they were raised by a single mother. Maybe they had both parents in the house, but the female was trying to be dominant and controlling and had a lot of fear for lack. So when you have a lot of fear towards lack of money, lack of energy, lack of attraction, if you're afraid that your partner is going to leave you because you feel like you're not pretty enough, you're not good enough, that's unhealthy too because it's going to project in your relationship and you're going to act out in those ways. And so finding the inner confidence is really going to help you. There are people on YouTube who can teach you how to become more attractive. And that's not even just with the way that you speak, because the way you speak and the way you hold yourself and the way you show yourself can say a lot about you. It can create a lot of attraction or when something is unattractive, right? You can really deter people away from you depending on how you act. But more importantly, there are things in your health that could really help you even become more attractive just by taking care of yourself, taking your health seriously. Like, I'm 33, I have to start making sure every tip of my, from my toes to my head is moisturized, because when I was growing up, I never used lotion. Even in my 20s, I really rarely used lotion. I would use coconut oil, but coconut oil can only like penetrate so much. So just knowing these things about your body, not just because of aging, but because of like maybe having an unhealthy diet or unhealthy choices where you might get a salad all the time for lunch, but you're not eating at the right hours. You skip meals, or you just don't get enough nutrition. So, like, even face yoga has helped me and my face a lot, because I used to always, suffer with acne, even though that was like a parasite thing. But I would do face yoga because, like, I noticed that I was getting my mom and my grandma's like cheeks where they kind of like go down a little bit and they look a little bit more like they're hanging. So face yoga helped me heal that because it wasn't genetic. It's actually lymph fluid that is, on your face. That's why when you drink alcohol, you slow down your lymph so much that your face looks swollen all the time, right? Like if you look swollen but you're not overweight but you drink alcohol, that could be a big reason why you look swollen, is your lymph is slowing down because your liver is making up for all of the toxicity that you're putting into it with the alcohol. So I'm glad some of you guys stayed on. Let me make sure I didn't miss any questions before I sign off. What do I think about queer people? I read that one, so not much. Please don't. Okay, I'm not going to read that one out loud because that's just silly. So, thanks for jumping on. Hopefully, you didn't get too bored. I did talk about like some personal things, some stuff like that. But hopefully, I gave you a good idea. I'm going to make a more informed and a more refined video of the same subject and post it on. But I just wanted to get on live to like allow some of you guys to jump in. I really appreciate the questions. Oh, someone said beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll read that comment out loud. So thank you so much. If you want to learn more about not just the dynamics in couples, but like learning how to raise your spiritual essence, your spiritual energy, attracting more abundance into your life, I do all of that. I will make them more refined because the algorithm on YouTube is crazy. If you're not perfect, on point, and making your topics clear and quick, people will sign off and they will just like not even watch your stuff. So go ahead and take a look at some of the interviews I've done. I've interviewed some really important, really cool, interesting people, and hopefully you have a good rest of your day. Thanks so much. How to make healthy, beautiful juice. I have made a lot of those videos on Instagram. I am more bigger on Instagram if you want to follow me there, Illuminated Wisdom. But I'll try and do some of that because juicing is important. Like it's a healthy way to get your nutrition in when you're just not like a hungry person, when you're busy, when you're not craving food. Juicing has helped me become very healthy. I've rid a lot of parasites being on a juice diet. And yeah, I've made some of that content on Instagram, but I'll bring it over here. I'll definitely share some of that stuff here. I haven't focused that much on YouTube, but this year is definitely the year where I will. So thanks for tuning in. And like I said, hopefully you have a great rest of your day, guys. Thanks.